Good evening and welcome to Formula Racing League. I realised my sound was turned off and had to turn it back on again. If anyone is available, Chris, would very much like a sound check as I haven't had to speak for a while, which has been rather nice, but I have missed you all. We are here for the first round of the British GT here at the home of FRL, Donnington Park. Hello Dark Saber, Chris Sater, how are you, sir? And where we have our annual congregation. This is, as mentioned, round one of the season. We have 5 very exciting rounds. We have Donnington Park tonight. Today we have Brands Hatch, then we go to Snetterton. Some of the FRL members have a special name for Snetterton, and then we go to Silverstone, the home of British Racing, and the final round at Alton Park, May the 2nd. Will be hopefully rather exciting. Hopefully we'll have something to play for. We have something a little bit different, as you can just see Daniel Dabasato overtaking a very small car on track. We have GT3s and GT4 cars firing round Donnington Park and for the entire series, which will be something to keep an eye on. We also have pairings of 2 drivers, which is also nice to see, so there will be a driver change involved in the event tonight. I'm just trying to find the checking for the information. There we go. So there is a mandatory pit stop. The race will be, the qualifying will be 20 minutes, so 10 minutes for each class. The race then is for 80 minutes, so you're going to have to put up with my voice for an hour, for 100 minutes in total. Mandatory pit stop where refueling will be allowed, and there is also mandatory refueling. A tyre change will also have to take place. So that will be something to look out for. Obviously it's going to be interesting. There will be some pairings that are rather quick, and it won't be too much of a difference between the driver changes. Oh, car firing across to the left. But there will also be pairings where there might be a difference in pace, and see how they get on throughout the race, as we watch Sebastian Erdmann overtaking car number 12, which is going to be fun to watch, to see how these GT4 cars and GT3 cars play nice together. We do have quite a fair number of GT3 cars on the track. So we have Tobias Rosenthal, who was the gentleman just being overtaken a few moments ago, Malopovsky, Shilamondeli, Vincenzo Senadori, who we know well from the Super Sprints season, Javier Gonzalez with a Z, not an S, Marco Kerry, Albel Daramos, Lewis Kett, Chris Carr, Alex Zachtel, and Christopher Gedman's just come in. He's in GT3. Gregors Dudka and Bjorn Dale, another driver we're quite familiar with from the Super Sprint season. And it's nice to see, despite the Super Sprints not happening this season, it's nice to see those drivers returning for a slightly different format, a longer format. We've got a couple of Alpines that are in there, in Rosenthal, Malapazzi and Senadori, which is interesting. Where's Chromadex? Chromadex doesn't do Tuesdays, just stuck with me, Chris. Chromadex does Thursdays and Fridays. If you have ever been to Donnington Park, it is quite a nice facility actually. Very expensive burgers, which are just over the hill on the right hand side, where all those people are lining up to. Oh, is he? I don't know. I think it was something like £20 for a burger and chips, which was very disappointing, especially when it was my round with my father-in-law last time around, and I had to spend 40 quid on burgers and chips. It was a tasty burger. It just happened to rain at the time. Oh, spin. We have uploaded the livery, so hopefully we'll see the good, the bad and the ugly tonight. This is a very nice one from Chesney in the Lamborghini. Lamborghinis in real life fared rather well. around this track, so interesting to see how they perform. We're going to have the usual suspects at the top of the tree. So Mr. Thomas Nopek, multiple GT4 Super Sprint winner, is in his BMW. Last time around was in the Mercedes-Benz. Dominic Illinger in the Audi Death Machine. Someone put Jumper Digital in the AMS, currently lying P3, so interesting to see if that was a good idea or not. But anyway, we are here for what promises to be, hopefully, a nice little event, a nice little short season of 5 events, as we're seeing. So I'm just trying to find a nice little image of the fastest laps. His Barca hot stint was 48, so yeah, right, okay. Do you want to bring out an S word, Christopher? Anyway, regardless of that, apart from next week, I'll be a commentator for this Tuesday season. I'm on holiday next week. I have a break for any computers. I'm not taking my laptop with me. I'm not taking anything with me. No, you don't want to say it. You can say it. It's not my formula that's broken. Right. So we have 4 minutes left to practice, not 10. Not the time stating 10 minutes. Yet to understand who's going out first, GT3s or GT4s. I imagine the GT4s will be going out in the first 10 minutes of qualifying, but I'm looking forward to this one. I love a little bit of mixed class racing. My favourite season back in the day on PlayStation FRL was Mixed Mondays, which had a split grid of 10 GT3s and 10 GT4s firing around the track, and it was immense. Won my first ever teams championship in that as well, which was also cool. I was the GT4 fanboy. Mr. Nopek has done his laps for the time being. He's going to pull it into the pits as we come in towards the end of practice. Can anyone challenge Mr. Nopek? Dominic is just gone faster, 1:26.265. Also, I haven't looked at what the FRL lap record is here, so let's have a quick check of that, shall we, dear? Have to excuse me, my brain is very, very haggled. I was working up until about 4 minutes before this. That's not what I wanted to see. Seem to. There we go. Right. Okay. So this is my little bit of labour of love. So we're currently on Jumper Digital. If we scroll down to the bottom, Donnington Park, Mr. Nopek owns the fastest lap with the lap record of a 25.722. And James Perry over 25.905. So it should be interesting of how the drivers get along. Just a little bit of introduction into my labour of love. Shows you all your race performance information, how many races, how many pole positions, how many points you've accumulated in your time at FRL, your wins, your DNFs, your podiums, your laps driven, how many championships you own. This gentleman here claimed Season 1 championship of British GT. Nothing to do with the fact that he put on races on the days he was available. Your driver rating, how many laps you've driven in specific cars, your wins and podiums, your last 15 races, your race by race driver rating, your final finishing positions for each season, and then your own personal best laps as well at each track. So Marco's is a 1:26.365. and then also it shows the fastest laps at each track which you care to visit. So Hungaroring updates and shows the fastest laps at Hungaroring. Again, my little labour of love. Enough about me and my passions of spreadsheets. I was playing with one with work just till I came live. So anyway, right, please keep me occupied in the chat, talk to me. It's going to be kind of a small mini endurance race of 80 minutes, so I'd very much value your company throughout this race. Once again, it is round 1. We do have a mandatory stop where teams where there are 2 drivers will get to have to swap. If your eyesight's also better than me, you might notice on P25 there's a little blue triangle in the top right hand corner of Vincenzo Senadori on his number, and that demonstrates which ones are the GT3s and GT4s. It took me a very, very long time to see it. Also, you might have also noticed someone sending some interesting links either via DM or in the server. So fortunately, we've identified where those have come from, and we've suggested they go to two-factor authorization to be able to keep their Discord accounts and remain in the server. So apologies. For the multiple pings, I woke up to about 12 pings in my on my Discord and feared the worst. And unfortunately, Mr. Friedman. There are many people in the mighty. There is at least one I know because he was telling me to look out for his mighty Janetta. So there's Chromadex.
Green light. Go,
so we have start of qualifying. There's Cristiano Romano in the Alpine. I believe he's practicing for the Alpine event. There's a mighty Janetta. So it is the GT4s coming out first. Ian Chica Thompson is... oh, it's GT3s. Yeah, so it is the GT3s coming out first. MCFC Williams Guan Broughton doing it at the back of DePaul. Translation, please. So that was an experience of it was, but it's a fantastic track. It's one of those tracks where you don't get a break. There isn't, apart from as you go down. So let's have a little bit of a track walk of the circuit. So you start on the start-finish straight, which isn't very long at all, and an opportunity for collisions at the start of the race. But you go down into Redgate, then come back down the hill into the Ukraina curves, hit the right-hand side, watch for exit oversteer into McLean's, down the long right-hander that doesn't really give you a break of Coppice, into the S's, then down into Melbourne hairpin. Interestingly, there's a town called Melbourne, not the state in Australia, through the final corner, across the start-finish straights. You don't really get any break where there's any long straights. You don't have a Paul Ricard here at Donnington Park. You see the aeroplanes flying overhead, and in real life the track gets very, very slippy in the wet because of the aeroplane fuel dropping onto the track. Absolutely wonderful facility, a great place to watch racing. You can walk around the entire track and get a view. So this is a great place to watch on the left hand side because you get to see all the opening laps. In the British F4 race you saw many collisions in this sector as they breathe across the left hand side. So currently on board with Sebastian Erdmann. You could do many things along that straight in Paul Richard. Alan Brown in the Eclipse Racing esports team. We have just had 3 minutes of qualifying. Donington Park anyway has a soft spot in my heart for a circuit in Britain. It's the only one I've ever been to. So you also have to watch for punches around this circuit. So fastest lap so far, 28.9 by Ian Chica Thompson. Alan Brown goes quickest with a 28. Tassin pops in a 27.1. David Goodway into the 26s. Erdman goes even quicker than him. Prithus also completes his lap as well. Dominic Illinger, unfortunately. That says Sergio Azario, and that's David Goodway in the car. I know they're teammates. So Bennett goes quicker again. So he's in the Porsche right here, the Fanta liveried Porsche. The man from Sweden, he could build some IKEA furniture down that straight, Paul Richard. So Benjamin Eck, I thought he was a Mercedes fan, but obviously not. Daniel Schneider pops his car into third place, the Mercedes, pumping out some fire out of the side of his car. There is Bob. Not Broughton, Broughton, Derek, Broughton. I remember going with my dad years ago, and the Renault F1 team had cars doing demo laps, and it was hell. I bet it was, especially if it was the old V10s or V12s. So Bob's in the Mercedes, in the BMW tonight. A returning fan favourite of Patrick Den once again, going through the S's. Watch for track limits there, and pray you don't get a puncher. Erdman goes quicker again. He pops in this time a 1:26.3. So a new entrant this season, man from Norway in the Aston Martin. We've got a Porsche, was it on? Yeah, Porsche on the left hand side, who's just ported back to pits. So anyone up on their time at the minute? You have Illinger has not set a lap as yet. He's still on a valid run at the minute. His pace, Christ, everyone's just popping up all over the place. His pace was quite decent in the last time out. Ian Thompson is on an invalid lap at the moment. Erdman is in the pits. Eck is on an invalid lap, and I assume is just starting a new one. Ike Zerman, a name that's become quite familiar over the past couple of weeks. Another man from Sweden, car number 60, did very, very well with Craig Hill in the endurance race at Brands Hatch the other day. Absolutely fantastic pace. So it'd be interesting to see how Ike performs in the BMW in this event against the man that holds all the cards of Mr. Nopek, driving in that BMW. Illinger goes into P1 with a 26.072. So Nopek is currently 2 tenths up on his lap, 3 tenths up on his lap. This can go close to what Illinger has just popped in. So will Nopek manage to hold his speed through the S's? Takes the curb on the inside, bounces across the curb on the right hand side, now down in towards the Melbourne hairpin. Is this going to be another good lap? Currently 4 tenths up, perfect braking zone, keep tight, drift out wide to the left hand side, pump the power down into the final hairpin. Currently 4 tenths up, was just on verge of fastest lap. Try and sweep round late apex, drift over to the right hand side, pump the power down again. Is Nopek gonna go into P1? He is indeed with a 56.042. That was a fantastic lap, but Illinger wants some more. He wants to challenge back. Has lost a good couple of tenths. Probably needs to back off and get some more space to the McLaren in front. Tassin is doing rather well in P8. He was a couple of tenths up on his quickest lap, but has dropped down significantly. Any GT3s have not set a lap. There is one car, Bella Gajan from No Nation. He is just started a new lap. He still has 2.5 minutes to set another lap. We've got Nopek is in the pits. Illinger is on a slow lap by the looks of things. Marco Badowski in the Lamborghini from Germany. Is Marco gonna lift himself up the field? Potential P4 above Sebastian, but Sebastian's on a faster lap as well, so we'll try and catch up with him as Marco goes into the final corner. Pumps on the power again. Is this going to be a quicker lap from Marco? It is not. Well, it was a quicker lap, but it wasn't significant improvement. Benjamin Eck is going a couple of tenths up. Erdmann was just behind. He's gone P3 with a 26.097. Nopek's having a rest before the race. Illinger is going slow once again. Ready to start his final attempt. Drivers still have a minute and 22 seconds. Elk has invalidated, unfortunately. Anyone else up? Ian Thompson is up, going through the final corner, looking for a significant improvement. His qualifying has improved of late. Pops in a 28.0. Still needs a couple of tenths in there. We'll still have at least one more attempt. Anyone else going quicker at the moment? There's not much between the top three. A 26.042, 26.072 and a 26.097 by this man who's just invalidated, unfortunately. Probably will have at least one more attempt if he gets round the rest of the track. Daniel Williamson from the UK in the Aston Martin. Seeing a lot of these grey cars around. Is currently a tenth of a second up. Ryan O'Sullivan's jumped into the pits. Illinger started his next lap a lot quicker. Rest of the drivers starting to jump in. We've got 20 seconds left. Eck has had a yellow flag invalidated, and unfortunately he won't be carrying on. Daniel Williamson going through. Raccoons. Daniel Williamson going through the S's. 10th for a second up, has just lost that 10th. Will need to improve in the final sector to see if he can jump above a 26.8 and above from P10. Just keeping you updated. Elena is still a 10th of a second up, 2/10 of a second up. Daniel Williamson crosses the line from P10 and jumps to P6. That's a fantastic effort. We've got Dominic Illinger. He's eager to get pole from Thomas Nopek going through the final corner. 2/10 of a second up. Is this going to be into the 25s? Dominic Illinger, yes, 25.930. That is a fantastic lap. Nopek fancied one more tenth, but he's gone a bit slower in the final sector. A tenth equals. Is he going to try again? Can he get past? He needs just over a tenth of a second over Dominic to get P1 in round 1. Drivers are coming out for GT4s now. Thomas Nopek stays at P2. Sebastian Erdmann. Final corner. I'm sorry at practice. I've got my quiet shady man voice back on again. Sebastian Erdmann stays P3. Any more GT3s out? Daniel DiSabato is invalidated. Gedman is in P24, so let's have a little bit of a run through of our GT3 grid then. So we got Dominic Illinger in P1, Thomas Nopek 2, Erdmann in 3, Benjamin Eck in 4, Marco Barowski in P5, Exerman in 6, Goodway and Osario in P7, Daniel Williamson 8th, Tazin in 9th, Chris Schneider 10th, Patrick Den once again in P11, Ryan O'Sullivan 12, Damien Wilk in P13, Bella Gadjan in 14, John Wilson in 15th, DeSabato 16th, Alan Brizzle Brown in P17, Bob Broughton in P18, Danny Sixups in 19th, Stephen Wilson in P20th, Craig Hill in P21st, Ian Chika Thompson in 22nd, Derek Bruh in 23rd, Christopher Gedman 24th, Marco von Kodowski in P25. Now it's the turn of the GT4s. So we have 12 GT4 teams on track, which is awesome to see. I love it. And we also have a mighty Ginetta of Alex Zachdel in car number 34. Oh, a little bit unmighty there with that little power slide that kicked in. Might ask for the GT3s and GT4s to change round for next week, just so I can, it kind of demonstrates it who's pole and who's not pole. But here is Alex Acto going through the final corner. He loves this machine as much as I do. Car number 331. Through the final corner. This is a great track for the mighty Ginetta. It's nice to see so many different GT4s on track as well. So Alex Acto, Cristian Romano pops his Alpine in, popped it into P1, but Vincenzo Senadore keeps P6. He's trying to stay from NOPEC this season by the looks of things. Cristian Romano in the Alpine in P2. Tomasz Malopowski in the Alpine in P3. So top three currently in the Alpines. Aston Martin of Marco Keddy in 29th. Gonzalez in 30th overall. So it's nice to see 38 cars on the grid in Donnington. That's going to be hell. So anyone offering any sort of improvements? We've got Marco Caddy currently 7/10 up on his lap, but he's invalidated unfortunately. Samuel in P33 in the McLaren is currently 6/10 up on his best lap at the moment. Gregors is doing okay in P34 too. So Samuel going through the final corner in the McLaren. Currently P33 moves up to P27. That's a nice lap there. So time difference is between the top guys so far, between GT3s and GT4s, is about 9 seconds. So Javier Gonzalez pops himself up into P3 with a time of 1:35.047. Niels Steinbrenner has gone into the 33s with a 33.992 in the Alpine. Senadore must be thinking, what the hell do I have to do to get away from Thomas? And now I've finally got away with him. I got Niels to worry about. That's 7/10 of a second. Is absolutely insane difference between the drivers. Marco Keddy 6/10 up on his lap at the moment. Going through the S's, manages not to invalidate. This is going to be an 8/10 as a second improvement. That's going to bring him into the top 4 drivers, top 4-5 drivers on the grid, into the Melbourne hairpin. Down the start-finish straight, is this going to be an improvement from Marco? It is indeed. He pops himself into P3 above Samuel. Any other drivers improving? Let's have a look at Chris Carr. Just going for the final corner in the Porsche. And he remains P35. Abel Doros Ramos in the Mercedes GT4 car. Beautiful piece of machinery. Nice livery too, to be honest. Into Melbourne hairpin. Up towards the final hairpin, currently 1.2 seconds up on his time. That's going to pop him into P35 potentially. So a good couple of positions gained from De Ramos. No, he must have invalidated. But then stops on track and narrowly avoids the car on the inside. We've got 2 minutes and 35 seconds left. Senadore is making some small improvements on his time, currently a 1/10 of a second up. Let's have a little bit of a ride on board with Vincenzo as he approaches the S's. Can see some cars in the distance. Bring over to the right hand side, cut as much of the inside curve as you can. Get the power on, make sure you don't oversteer it after the bumps. Car moved off on the right hand side. which will be handy to Senadori into the Melbourne hairpin. See if he cuts. No, he doesn't try and cut any of the hairpin out. Bring a car over to the left-hand side. Slowly bring it across the right-hand side. Look for your brake marker on the right-hand side. It's just before the Pirelli sign. Brings it into the hairpin to try and get on the power as early as possible. A little bit of loss of traction on the slide as he goes through, but that is a 1/10 of a second gain from Vincenzo, but still 5/10 behind Nils. Alex Zakdel's also improving. So is Thomas Malopolski in P33. Cristiano Romano's back out on the track, aka Chromadex. You'll probably be more familiar with his voice on a Thursday and a Friday. Nice right hand side drive of the mighty Ginetta. Hugs the hairpin. Powers out. This is a interesting position from Alex at the moment in P36. A little bit earlier in the braking zone from Alex. Brings it in cross into the hairpin. Lost a couple of tenths of a second through there. Manages to power out. P36 changes into P31. So he's battling away with Niels, who's again on a faster lap in the Alpine. I think there's probably more Alpines than you'll probably ever see, just because of the Alpine competition. If you didn't know about it, they're offering a few pennies. That's definitely invalidated lap from Nils. Might just get a final attempt if he gets the hurry on through the final sector. Thomas, meanwhile, is a good couple of tenths up on his time. Crosses the line from P34 to P30, which has knocked Gonzalez down by another position. Anyone else up on their laps at the moment? Nobody else is. Nils, unfortunately, will not be setting another lap. He has finished his qualifying, currently just over 5/10 of a second clear of the next best. And 3.5 seconds behind the slowest GT3 car as well, which is equally impressive. Gonzalez, how are you doing, sir? Man from España. 3/10, 4/10, 5/10, 6/10 up on his fastest time, and then drops it. So he carried so much more speed into the final corner, but that only gains him a place above Thomas. Nobody else is really improving at the moment. Marco Keddy is 2/10 down on his fastest lap. Let's stay on board with Cristiano Romano. How does this Alpine sound? Because he'll definitely be hoping faster than P35. He'll be expecting himself to be challenged in the top 3. He's invalidated, so this won't be any improvement. Thomas is our last remaining driver out on track who can set a lap. He's going to want to try and get above Gonzalez, and he does indeed. He goes into P30. That was qualifying, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, time to catch our breath back. So let's have a quick summary. So drivers who did qualify don't have to start the race. So we've got Lewis Kett in P38 with Ramos in 37th, Berry in 36, Romano in 35, Dale in 34th, Dudka in 33rd, Zakdal in 32nd, Gonzalez 31st, Malopolski in 30, Samuel in P29, Keddy in 28th, Senadore in 27th, Steinbrenner gets pole position in the GT4s. Then we go into our GT3 cars. So we go with Marco in 25th, Gedman in 24th, Derek Bruh in 23rd, Thompson 22nd, Craig Hill in 21st, Stephen Wilson in 20th, Dan Six-Ups in 19th, Bob Broughton in 18th. Then we got Brizzle, Luca Bossari in 16th, John Wilson in 15th, Bella in 14th, Raccoons Damien Wilk in 13th, Ryan O'Sullivan in P12, Patrick Den once again in P11, Daniel Chris Schneider in P10, Tassin in 9, Daniel Williamson on his debut in P8, David Goodway in P7. Then we got Zerman in P6, Marco Badowski in P5, Benjamin Eck in P4, Sebastian Erdmann in P3, Thomas Nopek in P2, and top of the tree is Nico Veltman, who's just taken over the car in P1. We've got just over a minute left until the drivers begin their formation laps. I'm going to take a short break. I'm back ready for the action. Hello, welcome back. We are just beginning our, well, we're just going through the formation lap at the moment. There'll be a couple of drivers who have changed from qualifying to race. Remember, it's an 80-minute race with one pit stop. If you're doing a driver's change, then some might be inclined to do it halfway through. If you're doing a solo race, you might do an hour and then pop in for the last 20 minutes, maybe do a splash and dash, no changing tyres if you want to be a risky biscuit. Just approaching the S's now. Yeah, absolutely, it's nice to see a few people who've done late night joining us for the main event, I suppose we can call it. Just making sure my heater's off. So we're going to have a look at the position delta and also drivers who have completed their pit stops. We know that there has to be at least one mandatory stop, and there also has to be tyres, so you can't do that splash and dash. It's going to be 30-second stop no matter what you do. So Veltman versus Nopek into turn 1. Bless me. First round of the British GT Season 2 is almost upon us, and we are... Anytime. Go! Veltman gets a better start on the inside, going down into turn 1. Nopek breaks a little bit, but they managed to get through, and Dominic Ilgner is in P1. Nopec challenging down. Well, there has been a position change at the back, but it looks as though everyone has pretty much got through by the looks of things. That is impressive for Donnington Park. Thompson and six-ups have a little bit of contact. It looks as though six-ups has gone off the track. But Ian Thompson remains on the field. We then have... So they've dropped a couple of positions, but Dominic Ilgner is leading from Thomas Nopec, from Erdmann, from Eck, from Podolski, from Zerman, from Goodway, from Williamson, from Tazin, from Chris Schneider. As we got P19 having a bit of a yellow flag moment. Is he on track? Yes, he is. Ian Thompson is right behind. Heading down towards the S's. Is Bob Broughton going to manage to retain position? Drivers weaving this way and that way. Bob Broughton does indeed manage to make it through the chicane. Let's have a look at our leader in the GT4s. We've got Steinbrenner. Currently leading the way from Vincenzo Senadore in P2. A little bit of a gap is forming between the GT3s and GT4s, as you would expect, but they do seem to manage to carry on. Thompson's gone off the track and is now being overtaken by the GT4s. That's going to make it a little bit more problematic for himself to get through. Goes on the inside, little bit of contact with the GT4, but manages to get through. It's an art getting these overtaking these GT4s en masse. So Thompson brakes a little bit later, hugs the inside line and manages to get through. Top of the tree. How is it going? We got Ilgner still there in P1 from Nopec. That is an impressive start from Dominic. Quite a few times last season we saw Nopec qualify in P2 but still lead by turn 1. This time Dominic has managed to pull a little bit of a gap, a 0.6 of a second. Ike Zerman's gained a position. He has Marco Badowski, who's lost a position right behind him. Williams and Goodway have swapped places as well. Wilson's gained up 2 positions. Despacato's gained up 2 positions. Gadjan has lost 1. So Bob Broughton in P17 is having a little bit of a fight for his life going into the S's. And Raccoon's Damien Wilk manages to overtake him as well. So is he going to try and make a move into the hairpin? No, thinks about it. Decides against it. That puts him under pressure from Wilson behind. Tazin's got a yellow flag. Ilgner sets the fastest lap of the race with a 26.645. Nopec goes, no mate. 26.630 from him. Tazin is under a lot of pressure, as you can see, from Chris Schneider behind. All these drivers have gained a few positions since the start of the race. The top 4 drivers, however, remain in the status quo. Zerman's also under pressure from Marco Badowski in P6 directly behind. Goodway and Den are having a bit of a fight too. Still remains in position, so Nopec is hovering at 4 to 5 tenths behind Ilgner at the moment. We have an hour and 16 minutes left of this race. We've just set the touch paper on fire. These 2 cars have got a little bit of a gap over Ergman. Chris Schneider and Tazin door banging as they head down in towards the hairpin. Tazin moves dramatically over to the right hand side to defend the inside line. That will give Chris Schneider the inside line for the next corner, but Tazin moves straight in front of the car. That gives Goodway an opportunity round the outside. Is he going to make the move? No, Chris Schneider managed to hug the inside line and power out. That's put Goodway, given Patrick Den the opportunity to make the move. On tape for Goodway. Goodway will have the inside line into turn 1 and uses that to full advantage to hold his position, but his line is disrupted by Chris Schneider in front. There's a train of cars, including Ryan O'Sullivan in the McLaren. We've got Wilk is dropping quite a few positions, and that'll be why he's off into the distance. I'm not sure what contact was made, but it's also involved Daniel Desposato as well by the looks of things. In terms of our P1 in the GT4 class. We've got a car just rejoining on track, and fortunately enough was sensible not to rejoin straight into the middle. We got Craig Hill directly in this fight as well, which is not ideal. Senadore, it has these GT3 cars who have fallen to the back of the grid in and amongst his fight with Nils. Nils, meanwhile, seems to be a bit quite comfortable. Although Craig Hill has just gone past the Alpine, jumps across the curbs. And the McLaren using the slipstream to full advantage. Ilgner goes fastest again. Ryan O'Sullivan and John Wilson are fighting it out here as well for P12 and 11 and 12 respectively, with Patrick Den right behind them, and Bella as well. Alan Brown is just a second behind the fight as they go into turn 1. Let's have a look, see what Ike Zerman's doing with Marco directly behind as they go down towards the hill, kind of off camber corner. Always scary when you put down the power and you hope for the best, not to be spinning off into the distance. But Zerman is definitely being occupied. Benjamin Eck is trying to challenge, to chase down Erdmann. Erdmann is 4 seconds, 4.5 seconds, 5 seconds behind Thomas Nopek. Nopek only 0.7 of a second behind. The fight is on though between Patrick Den, and there's an inside move done by Bala on Ryan O'Sullivan. That move was successfully completed as they head down towards the S's. Brizzle Brain is going to try and go for the move as well into the S's. Is he going to make it, outbreak it? He's left enough room on the inside just for Ryan O'Sullivan to take the corner. He's lost a couple of positions down into P15 now, so he's gone down from P12 to P15. Wilson's gained up 4 places from P15 to P10. Ilgner goes fastest again with a 26.555. Still has Nopek breathing down his neck rather uncomfortably. No room to, not enough room to break. Derek Brutt in P19 is seems to be faring quite well. With Stephen Wilson behind, a little bit late in the braking zone, which gives the Audi an opportunity to potentially move up. You got Ian Thompson who's making his way back through the grid in P18 in the foreground as well. Hey, we're both overly polite. It's nice. Nice to see with some of our more experienced racers. Christopher Gedman must have gone off the track because he's trying to make his way back through. Goes off wide at the corner as well. Marco Keddy in the background. So Gedman moves to the inside for turn 1 on the Alpine. The Alpine brakes sensibly wide. That seems to have a quicker exit than the BMW in front. The Aston Martin doesn't look that much smaller than the GT3 cars, which is interesting. Christian Romano hasn't had the best of starts. Kind of expected him to fire through the grid. His fastest lap was a 35.2, which is around 0.7 of a second quicker than most of the cars in front. Desposato and Wilk have completed their pit stops rather early, so can only assume damage was caused by a little bit of a collision between those two cars. But now they're going to have to go back through the GT4s, which is going to be a struggle. Is this Marco Kelly making a move on Vincenzo Senadore? I think it is, into the S's. Senadore breaks and Kelly rather politely allows him to cut across him. Christopher Gedman, I think, has done a stop, but that was only 14.1 seconds, so it's registering as a stop on my system, but not on here. Interesting. Stephen Wilson and Derek Bruss. Stephen Wilson gets catches the grass a little bit too much, and has lost a little bit of time over Derek in the Ferrari. Wilson and Patrick Den are fighting out in P11 and 12 respectively. Benjamin Eck is falling down the grid. I'm not quite sure what's happened to him. Let's have a look. He's fallen too quickly for me to catch him. There he is. No, that's Brizzle. Where's Ben? I'm starting to think there was a disconnect involved. Yes, I think Ben has unfortunately been disconnected for one reason or another. That's promoted Ike into P4. Ike has a little bit of a moment on the grass, which has given Marco Podolski a bit of an opportunity. Gap in front between the top two drivers is 1.2 seconds. Fish and chips before this is slowly repeating on me. A little bit of a scrape on the right hand side of the Porsche as Desposato comes back through. No, that's not Desposato, that was... Oh. That's Lewis Kett. In the Aston Martin, having a bit of a moment through Melbourne hairpin, which has dropped him a fair few positions. I'm not sure if that was inflicted upon him or that was a mistake. Stephen Wilson now within a couple of tenths of a second on Derek, going through the Melbourne hairpin on the exit. Stephen Wilson going to make a move into the final hairpin. Derek defends the racing line. See if he runs deep this time, and will Stephen Wilson have an opportunity to come out of the corner, down into turn one in front? No, he does not. Let's have a look-see to see where the closest fights are. Podolski approaching a GT4 car already. Should have more than ample power to overtake. He does indeed. Trying to figure out. Let's have a look at Nils in P23 in 23rd at the moment. P1 overall in the GT4 class. Has a nice little bit of open track in front of him. Senadore in P2 with Marco Keddy in P3. Zachdal in P4. Thomas in P5. Samuel in P6. Bjorn Dale in P6. And directly behind him, Javier Gonzalez. GT3 cars already coming through. Gregor's in P31, Cristo Romano in P32. He'll be closing in on Gregor in the not too distant future. Albert Dos Ramos in P33rd, Nathan Berry in P34, Lewis Kett in P35. And then we have some GT4 cars who are a lap down at the moment in P36 and P37. Does look as though we have lost Benek. We've got David Goodway under pressure. Alan Brown's had a yellow flag moment, but I think he's okay. David Goodway under pressure from Francois Tassin. It's been my first stream since we've had a little bit of change over our little break between seasons. So we've recently started up iRacing on Monday nights. I think there's something in the works for another night as well. And we've also brought across Formula 1 on Tuesdays, Fridays, Saturdays and Sunday. So FRL expanding beyond ACC. So you might be hearing my dulcet tones on another game, another simulator in the not too distant future. Look like Marco making a move on car number 169, a GT4 car. David Goodway also has to attempt to make that move as well, which he does so. The Mercedes comes in between Goodway and the Porsche. The Porsche has slippery moment. I think that was Tazin. It was indeed had a slippery moment for the braking zone. That's put Chris Schneider right on his rear end. And now the hunter becomes the hunted. So Tazin, after that moment, is now under pressure from Daniel Chris Schneider. Looks as though Tazin has settled down. So these GT4 cars are now starting to be lapped by the GT3. So we still got Nils off in front. Erdmann is under pressure from Ike Zerman as they go through these GT4s, and they have successfully managed to pass them. Now Zagdal is the car in front, so it's only taken them 10 laps to catch up with them. So this is the ideal place where you want to be able to pass a GT4 car on the straight and power down in towards the corner, successfully brake in the right area and not get collected. Zagdal's an experienced driver and knows how best to let the drivers through. It's always difficult when they're approaching in this sector, as an example. So we've got Marco Keddy in P3 in the GT4s, allows a GT3 on the right hand side. We've got Romano having contact with looks like Gregor's behind, as Gregor's getting a little bit disorientated, very disorientated, and bumps a GT3 car. That gives a little bit of a flash for. So that was Bella. Yeah, that was Bella Gajan, what she made contact with. The joys of mixed class racing, I guess. So Daniel is now starting to come up to for position at the moment with these GT3 cars. Starting to see yellow flags. Yes, it is wrong. Experienced at 15. But he has been with us for a long while, and his pace since joining us has massively improved as well. And he's also a really nice guy. So Thompson's had some contact in P18. This must be as he's passing the GT3 cars. He's got a GT4 cars, a GT3 on the inside, and he's kind of sandwiched in between them. Has a little bit more contact with the rear end of the BMW in front. BMW goes past the yellow Porsche, round the outside, tries to go Ian Thompson. Ian Thompson is then caught in the back behind the GT4 car. This time we'll have the opportunity to pass down the straight. So I think that is Desposato. Yes, it was. So Desposato is a lap car as well over Ian Thompson. So he now has to give way to Thompson behind, providing there is that pace difference between the cars. P31, Christian Romano right on the back of Javier Gonzalez now. In and amongst this GT3 traffic as well. It's really difficult for these GT4 cars to have a clean, prolonged fight without then having to worry about a GT3 car steaming up behind them. McLaren and Aston Martin successfully navigate through, so this battle can resume between Romano and Gonzalez. So Gonzalez and Romano fight their race on the late night stuff. Late night races on Thursday. We've got Danny's Dan 6-ups on P16, having a little bit of a yellow flag. Marco in P6. Daniel Williamson's progressed very well through the field. Moved up 3 places to P5. Zerman is a couple of tenths behind Erdmann in front still. So that's something that's brewing. We've got just over an hour left of the race. Tazin has a little bit more difficulties than the Mercedes behind of Chris Schneider of overtaking the GT4 car. And Brown and Ryan O'Sullivan, I think, might be side by side. No, they're not. O'Sullivan's successfully managed to get past Allen and has moved back up into P13 now. Gajan behind, in front of these, going through the S's, is a couple of tenths of a second behind John Wilson. Sato is coming back through the field still, now into P32. Remember, himself and Wilk have done their pit stops. I think they were enforced. Oh. Come and join me for comms, Ben. Nobody ever takes me up on that offer. So Chris Schneider still chasing down Francois Tazin. It's alright, man. Nobody ever chooses me. Nobody ever takes me up on that offer. Absolutely fine. Erdmann under significant prolonged pressure by Zerman behind. Zerman has only started a couple of weeks ago here in FRL. Has done very well in the rookie races and also the Friday races, and as mentioned before, did really well in the endurance race paired up with Craig Hill. Craig Hill currently in P19 in the McLaren, trying to chase Ian Thompson. Derek Bru's gone off track by the looks of things and is now a second, 2 seconds behind Marco van Kowalski into turn 1. Very similar braking zone, a little bit of a slide from the BMW behind. Christopher Gedman's had a yellow flag. I assume he's gone cutting some grass. Bjorn Dale in P29 has been overtaken by Desposato. He's going to be lapped as well by the Audi behind. Bjorn Dale in the Porsche GT4 car. So nice to see GT4s on track. It brings me so much pleasure and delight. Currently leading the way are 2 Alpines of Nils and Vincenzo Senadore. Senadore, the bridesmaid, never the bride. Hopefully this season in his battle with Nils he'll win out. There's a gap of 4 seconds between the two drivers at the moment. Senadore slides across the inside curve. McLaren of Ryan O'Sullivan goes round the outside into the braking zone for the S's and comfortably makes that move stick. BMW behind is chasing Ryan and sensibly decides to wait and to make the lap move down into the hairpin. He's successfully managed to navigate that. So Derek's now moved back ahead of Marco, so he's gone back up into P20, Marco into P21. Has the gap in front, so Dominic hasn't been on stream very much at all. Currently in P1, leading the way by 2.9 seconds over the Super Sprint champion Thomas Nopek. Currently in P2, Erdmann in P3 with Zerman 4, Williamson 5, Badowski in P6, Goodway 7th, Taz in 8th, Chris Schneider 9th, and Den in 10th. Yeah, it just always somebody, and Senadore is absolutely rapid. I think we can all acknowledge that, and he deserves a championship. But Nils decides to just exist. And with the way that points work out as well, it only takes one mistake or one poor race for somebody to have the opportunity to get in front. Sorry, I was just trying to figure out why Disney had taken money off me, but Oh, I realised Disney Plus. There we go. Desposato is still making his way through. His next on his list is going to be Marco Keddy. Thompson's done alright since after he fell back through. He's had a slow moment as I think he was overtaking a GT4 car by the looks of things, but is back on track now in P19. Craig Hill doing rather well in P18. In his Coca-Cola liveried McLaren. So Romano's managed to get past Gonzalez. Bjorn Dale is the next car on his list. If you look at the fastest laps for GT4s, so you've got Nils who's done a 34.6, Senadore 35.1, Marco Keddy 35.0, Zakdal 35.5, then Samuel with 35.3, Dale with a 36.0. Cristian Romano's pace is right up there with the quicker guys. He's done a 35.2. For the GT3s, fastest lap is obviously Dominic Elginer with a 26.6, with Nopek with a 26.672. Erdmann 26.8. Then you got Zerman in P4 on a 27.8. Williamson with a 27.2. So 0.6 of a second, the fastest laps between the cars at the top of the tree. Ramos is having a slow moment, but he's back on track. Lewis Kett, I can't find him, so I think he might have stopped. Yep, there he goes. So he might have had enough this evening. Walk is going up into P27. He's past Alex Zakdal, the experienced 15-year-old. So where's the first stop's going to be taken? So we're just Krishnaia makes a move on a GT3 car into the hairpin, powers away, gets a little bit of a flash from, I assume that's Berry behind. Yes, it is. Yeah, so when are the first stops going to take place? So we've had roughly 25 minutes, so expecting the first scheduled stops to start taking place in about 15 minutes time. I think 35, maybe about 10 minutes time until the first scheduled stops start taking place, if they're doing a driver swap or they just want to go halfway through. But there should be a gap potentially of drivers then going as long as they possibly can, but the stop is still going to be 30 seconds long because they have to do tyres. Let's have a look at Bob. Bob currently in P15. P15 lapping, his last lap was his fastest lap of a 27.9, so fuel's starting to go a bit lower on some of these cars. That's giving them an opportunity to do some faster laps. Raccoons is now 5 seconds behind Niels as he approaches the Melbourne hairpin. Is to get him back in line with all the other GT3 cars. So Nils currently has done 18 laps of the race, going through the final corner now, and we'll soon see a grey Lamborghini behind. Trying to figure out where our closest battle is at the moment. We've got Zerman and Erdmann in P4 and 3 and 4, separated by a second. So mandatory pit stop for tyres and fuel is in place. I don't think there is a pit window per se. Well, it didn't say anything on the joining instructions, so I'm assuming no pit window, which is bring some of the drivers a lot happier. So Damien has managed to jump into P24, and next he has to chase down his Depasato, who's 15 seconds behind him. Christopher Gedman going slow. I think that's because he is getting lapped by Patrick Den by the looks of things into the S's, and he is now 22nd. Gonzalez has a yellow flag. Seems to be going okay. Right, so our first stop, scheduled stop, we have Craig Hill is in the pits. Oh no, Nils has gone off the track, and that must bring Sanadori right back into it potentially. So Nils went off the track, had a yellow flag. I'm not sure if that was a GT3 car that was involved, but has given Sanadori a great chance to close right back in. 0.7 of a second now. Hill is still in the pits. But Sanadori is right on the back of Nils Stillbrunner. So Gedman's stop there, as you can see, was 210 seconds. Craig Hill's was 58.8 seconds. And we've also had Ian Thompson who's come into the pits as well. So these are drivers who potentially are looking for that halfway point when to pit. Maybe they've had a puncture and they've had to pit early. But Sanadori is right on the back of Nils Stillbrunner. I suspect these drivers will be doing a change as well. So Thompson is in the pits. Craig Hill is just coming through the S's at the moment, bouncing across the curb, waiting for those tyres to heat up. Any closer at the top of the tree? No, Zerman is still 1.5 seconds behind. So our closest on-track battle at the moment is Nils and Sanadori. We have a GT3 car just coming through of a Ferrari. It's an FRL livery car, so hopefully he behaves. I think that's Derek. Yes, it was. Dirty Derek on the attack. So Thompson must have had damage because he's had a 70-second stop. That was 1.1 seconds slower than Desposato, who had to stop very, very, very early. So Thompson now into 23rd position. We got Ike Zerman just behind, by the looks of things as well, of Nils. Just warning Nils he's going to go for the move into the hairpin, hugging the inside line. The Alpine takes a slightly tighter line, but doesn't have the power of the GT3s to accelerate the way. That looks to be someone attacking Dirty Derek of an Aston Martin car of car number 22, and that move is successfully completed. So that was Erdmann moving up ahead. So Christopher Gedman's done a stop by the looks of things. It hasn't registered as a pit on here, but he had a 210-second stop. So confusing easy. As you can see, Moobot has posted a link to the FRL Race Hub Instagram account where we do all our podium pictures. So please give us a follow. Cost you nothing. The gap back up to 1.2 seconds with all these GT3 cars piling through. We got Aston Martin who's back onto the racing line. Neil Berry has gone into the pits as well. So that is currently from last position. Still overtaken by Damien Wilk as well in towards the hairpin. We've got another McLaren approaching to lap these guys for the second time, I believe. Yeah, it will be the second time. So Senadore about to be overtaken. Is he going to take the opportunity to dive into the pits? No. Dan Sixup has a yellow flag. Not sure who that's contact with. Potentially Dos Ramos, who also has a yellow flag in the GT3 cars. That is a lovely livery. I do like a Mercedes livery. So disappointing to only see one Mighty Ginetta on track. Gonzalez has gone above Malapowski, who's dived into the pits, so he's going to serve his pit stop now. Neil Berry and Chris Carr have swapped places, so Chris Carr is now on track in the Porsche. That was a 57-second stop. Thompson has passed Daniel Disabato, so Disabato had to do another stop by the looks of things, and that's allowed Damien Wilk to overtake him as well. So you can only assume that he did not stop for fuel and tyres. So the gap in front between Dominic and Thomas is just under 5 seconds at the moment. 12.5 seconds to Erdmann in third. Second behind him is Zerman. Then you got Williamson, Badowski, Goodway, Tazin, Krishnaida, Den and Gadjan. It reigns a top 11 drivers. Derek Broke goes past Dan Sixup, who goes into the pits. Derek currently now in P17, just passed by Damien Wilk in the Lamborghini. Dan Sixup coming out of the pits now. Have to be careful of these cars on track, because the pit line crosses the entrance for Turn 1. It's an absolute nightmare, and there's no feed-in line whatsoever. It's just the pit's done, you can go. So it can be a cause of some interesting accidents. Craig Hill moves up to P20th. If we've got Marco in the pits still in his McLaren. So currently our fastest stop is a 58.8 from Craig Hill. Haven't seen anything pop up in terms of track limits. We've had a drive-through cleared by one of the drivers. So Zerman and Erdmann fighting it away. Wonder if any strategy is going to come into play for pit stops. Or probably they'll end up pitting at exactly the same time. Tassin is one of our first of our top 10 drivers to dive into the pits. Chris Schneider's followed him in as well. So that's P8 and P9. Chris Gedman's got a yellow flag against his name. We've also got Gadjan has gone into the pits halfway through the race, 40 minutes in. So any of those drivers who are... I don't know what you're doing, mate. Any of these drivers got a driver swap might be inclined to do their pit stops now as well. So O'Sullivan's been promoted. Tazin, currently in P11, will be coming out of the pit shortly. So Zerman right on the back, as we've got Marco in car number 82. So Ilgner has gone into the pits. Our leader is into the pits. Is he going to successfully find his pit box? Lots of cars pitting at exactly the same time. This will be Nico Veltman, I believe, taking control of the car as well. So Dominic Ilgner is in the pits. Thomas Nopek is in the pits as well. Is there going to be a driver change in with Thomas Nopek? If so, whom? And will they fire away? So Erdmann has taken control of the lead at the moment with Zerman in P2, just 4 tenths behind. Marco Podolski in P3, Williamson 4, Goodway 5, Ilgner in 6th now. He should be coming out of his pit box soon. So this is going to be a battle of the pit crew. So he's away. So that's Dominic Ilgner out of the pits. Has Thomas Nopek started moving yet? Yes, he has. Lots of cars filing through, and Dominic Ilgner managed to slot himself right in the middle of them, and then gets to go around the outside of a GT4 car. That's a fun thing with cold tyres. So, any changes? So Nico Veltman has come back into the car. It's come into the lead car. We've got Thomas Nopek continuing in P8. Stephen Wilson's also dived into the pit box. Let's have a look at these times. So Nopek's stop was a second quicker than Nico Veltman. So that's 3.5 seconds that's dropped down to. So Nico will have to try and hold on to the pace. Have any of our GT3 cars, GT4s, leader stopped yet? Nope, that's a blue sky. So Keddy, Zakdal and Gonzalez are all in the pits at the moment. So Marco Keddy allows the Lamborghini to go through and then the Aston Martin to go through. So he's back out on the track now. We've got Alex Zakdal has also come out of the pits. Seems like these GT3 cars could get serviced an awful lot quicker than most of the GT4s. Stephen Wilson is out in P8. 18. He's come out of the pits, not out of the race. Chris Schneider right on the back of Lewis Priebus in the Porsche versus the Mercedes Power. Down into the Melbourne hairpin, inside line made by Daniel Schneider, hugs the inside line, now he has to get on the Power, bring it across the left hand side to try and prevent the Porsche coming through. Porsche will have the inside line now for the final turn, but it looks as though Schneider has managed to get this nailed and gets to go through. Fantastic move from Daniel Schneider, who moves up into P11. Derek Brutt in P15 had a yellow flag against his name, but he seems to be okay. A little bit of front end damage to that Ferrari in car number 78, but carries on his merry little way. Still no stops from the top three. So Nils, Vincenzo and Cristian Romano are still going around the track. There's 2/10 of a difference now between Chris Schneider and Patrick Den. Both cars have made a stop. Sergio Azario is in the car number 007. GT4 car getting in the way a little bit, which is going to allow Lewis to potentially make the move. They're going to go 3 wide into the right-hander. The Porsche has made the move successfully. And Daniel Schneider must be cursing his luck right now, as Bjorn Claessens is in car number 13. Car number 666, under pressure from Wilson behind. Chris Schneider had a yellow flag for that little move, but Lewis has jumped him into position. So Erdmann has come out of the pits. He's come out of the pits, interestingly, behind Dyke Zerman. So Ike's stop was 55.9, whereas Erdmann's was a 57.4, so lost just about a second and a half in the pit stops, which has given Zerman the position. And now he is 2.2 seconds behind, with traffic in the way, flashing his lights on the McLaren. Still takes a little bit of more of the grass than he wanted to, then goes wide for the next corner. So car number 60 needs to keep going to push up onto the back of Ryan O'Sullivan before Ryan pits. Alan Brown is 9.8 seconds behind Nopek. Christopher Gedman has another yellow flag. I'm not sure what that was, but he seems to be okay. Craig Hill, on the other hand, is experiencing the grass at Donnington Park. Senadori, unfortunately, had a yellow flag as well, so let's hope he didn't have any contact. He has now got pressure from car number 71, by the looks of things. Who is car number 71? That's Thomas. That's a lap car. Christian Romano's completed his pit stop. He's currently in P30. 10.2 seconds behind Samuel. Samuel is only 7/10 of a second behind Alex Zakdal in the mighty Ginetta in P28. So Claessens has 4/10 of a second behind him to John Wilson. Then we got Derek Brutt and Adam Clark as they approach the Melbourne hairpin. There's a move being sent down the inside by car number 56. That move has successfully been completed. Nils is in the pits. Zenadori is in the pits. So away goes the Alpine. And away goes the Alpine. You can see Nils in front. A tighter line's taken by the GT3 car in front there. Is he going to feed into traffic here? It looks as though he is okay. So Senadori comes back onto the track, 8 seconds behind Nils in front. So we've got Claessens, we've got Craig Hill having another yellow flag moment at the S's. Careful of your drive-throughs and careful of your tyres there. So the gap between Nico Veltman and Thomas Nopek is becoming more and more shrunken. Couldn't think of a better phrase for that. We've got Brown, O'Sullivan and Bruss still yet to pit. Christopher Gedman is in the pits as well. I can only assume he had a drive-through at the start, as Nico Veltman goes past Marco Keddy. Marco Keddy moves across to the right-hand side. That's going to allow Thomas Nopek to potentially make the move into the break-in zone. The move is done before the break-in zone. Nico Veltman needs to keep this clean, needs to keep this on track. Ryan O'Sullivan is now 4/10 of a second behind Alan Brown. Two drivers yet to pit, currently in third and fourth on track. And Chris Schneider is going to attempt to make the move once again on Lewis. He's done it once, then had a little bit of an issue with a GT4 car. So will Daniel Chris Schneider get to make the move once again? Not too far away from these two is Patrick Den, who's which is less than a second ahead of Lewis. So let's keep an eye on these three cars. Keep an eye on the pits. Yet to pit of Brown, O'Sullivan and Bruh. And that is the only ones yet to have completed one of their mandatory pit stop. Lewis is getting closer to Patrick Den as they approach the Melbourne hairpin. Lots of traffic in front, as you can see. The Porsche manages to the white Porsche manages to take a tighter line over the red Porsche into the final hairpin. Patrick Den puts his car in a very uncomfortable position. Then he gets to power out and hopefully get in front. Mercedes has got back through one GT4 and Brown has pitted. Lewis gets through the second GT4. Chris Schneider's going to be caught behind them, and this is going to be a very difficult area to try and overtake. However, he's going to try and go down the inside, which he's managed to do. Lost a bit of time on Lewis in front. Lewis is chasing down Patrick Den. as they head down the hill towards the right-hander. You see a lot of tyre marks of the oversteer. We've got a GT3 car joining the track again in a difficult position behind. Chris Schneider's closed back up to the back of this pack as Lewis is trying to look left, trying to look right to make the move into the right-hander again. Pump the power down, delay the power as long as possible to get on it, to get down towards the S's. Is Lewis going to manage to make a move into the chicane? No, Chris Schneider claws back in, as you can see in the black Mercedes. Has a much better exit. This is going to potentially go 3 wide into Melbourne, as Patrick Den hasn't had the best of exits as well. So Chris Schneider gets the inside line over Lewis, and is it going to be 2 for 1? It is! Absolutely fantastic overtake by Daniel Chris Schneider, who's now moved up to P7. Wow. That's my overtake of the day, I think. Well done, well done, Daniel Chris Schneider. Chris Schneider now under pressure from Patrick Den. But look at the lap times. They're all very, very similar. Ryan O'Sullivan under pressure from Mike Zerman. Ryan O'Sullivan yet to pit, has Marco Keddy directly in front of them. Ryan O'Sullivan should manage to get past Marco, head of the corner, and not have his line impacted too much. But all that move was set up by Chris Schneider having a fantastic S's down in towards Melbourne. Just gained so much momentum, cleaned up, and then buggered off. Oh no, Lewis is parked on the track. And that's given Sergio Azario position back as well. So Sergio's going into the S's, had to take a tighter line, will not have the exit. Patrick Den managed to breathe away. That's given Chris Schneider a bit more comfort in a comfortable room. Ryan O'Sullivan is now in the pits to have his stop. Has Derek pitted yet? Derek has not pitted yet. He's just been overtaken for the lead. So the lead battle is, well, has heated up. And please, someone correct me if I'm wrong. That doesn't look like an M4. That looks like the M6. Ask David Goodway about the M6 and Derek Pro actually. I don't think they enjoyed it very much. So Sullivan with his long stint has come out in P13, P14 behind Alan Brown, just a second behind. Nico Veltman in this fight for the lead goes past the GT4 car. So Nico Veltman going into the braking zone, a little bit squirrely under the brakes, has half a second between he and Thomas Nopek. We also have a Jumper Digital ahead of Bjorn Claessens. Bjorn Claessens trying to make his way through the field as well. Currently in P11, wants to get into the top 10. Has the inside line into the right-hander. Is a move going to be made? Yes, it is. So Bjorn Claessens has indeed moved up into P10. Be careful of the track warnings there. So time has been extended just to about a second between Nopek and Veltman. It's all going to be about not just the lap times. The lap times a 27.6 last time out for Veltman, a 27.4 for Nopek last time out. It's not necessarily going to be all about the lap times. It's going to be about how you manage that GT4 traffic. Can you negotiate quicker than your opponent? As we saw, the pit stops have been completed. Nopek was a second quicker. However, since the pit stops, Nopek has been lapping consistently quicker than Nico Veltman, as we got car number 56 being very, very kind to allow these drivers to go through. 37 laps completed so far, 25 minutes left of the race. Dumper Digital has lost another place. He's dropped down to P12. John Wilson's gone through. The Bjorn Classes now must be looking at Lewis in front and thinking, I fancy my chances here. Sergio Azario in P8 in car number 7. I thought he was a lot closer, Patrick Den, than that, as Patrick Den has to go through Chromedix by the looks of things. Our GT4 leader is Tobias Rosenthal. Now taken over from Niels. On a more, it's been the same, and I'm sure same for a very long time, and I'm sure GT3 drivers will say the same about GT4s not allowing them to get through. Yes, they're always aggressive, and it's not nice to see. Derek has let Stephen Wilson go through, so Derek now has some flappy bonnet syndrome. To the front of car number 78 in the Ferrari. He surely has to come into the pits. So Ian Thompson, who has completed a stop, is now 28 seconds behind. So Ian Thompson surely is going to overtake Derek in the pit stops. And that leaves me to worry, where will Derek come out? I'm thinking potentially ahead of Luca in P22nd. But definitely behind Craig Hill, I think. So Derek does indeed come into the pits. See a bit of a cracked windscreen there. So I'm trying to keep an eye on what's happening up front with Mr. Nopek in the BMW. He doesn't have to rush this move. He can keep getting closer and closer to Nico. Nico obviously got to negotiate those GT4s. So Derek has indeed. He's got some damage as well, which is not going to help him. So Luca's just coming up to the S's. He lets a faster car come through. So Luca Pascari takes over. Oh, that's going to help Derek. Oh, so Luca's managed to get back on the track. Looked like he didn't get that much contact. So yes, Tobias is now 2 seconds ahead of Vincenzo Senadore. Senadore goes across the track. Craig Hill has a yellow flag, but I think that was just him overtaking a GT4 car, which it was. Luca now 8/10 of a second, so they've all overtaken Derek. Derek is just started to move now in P23 with a new windshield. Alex Zachdal just a second behind Samuel, 7/10 of a second behind Samuel now. Marco Keddy in a comfortable P3. Vincenzo Senadore a second and a half behind Tobias in P1. Just wary of those GT3s coming past you. Fight up in front is still a second. Erdmann is 1 second, 1.2 seconds behind Ike. He's 18 seconds behind P2. And that fight at the top of the tree. Hayne in the Aston Martin has taken over in car number 23. Daniel Schneider is having a fantastic race. Up into P6. Patrick Den P7. So everyone has now completed their pit stops, which is nice. So Daniel Schneider there, as you can see, 27.3 is his fastest lap. 2.7 seconds behind Hayne in front. Hayne's last lap was 0.3 of a second slower than Daniel Schneider. We've just approached 20, or just approaching 20 minutes left of the race. And at this point, I'm really regretting not bringing a drink in with me. So round the so Stefan von Kudowski takes the inside line and manages to get through. So he's still in P21. So Chris Schneider and Den have both gained 4 places. Claessens has gained 4 places. Wilson 4. Alan Brown has gained 5 places. Digital has lost 8 places, I think. Red and blue is not my strongest colour to look upon. Probably have been our biggest winners and losers so far on the grid. Derek now comes out last overall in the GT3 classes, 1.8, 1.7 seconds behind Chris Gedman. So the battle of the Scots is going to continue. So no, Derek has been lapping a little bit quicker than Christopher, and now Derek has a fresh set of boots, a new windscreen, and should be able to challenge Christopher Gedman for that position. So Jumper Digital is all over the shop at the moment, off the track, allowing the leaders to go through. So there's Nico Veltman on the right hand side, and also Thomas Nopek. So Jumper Digital has lost another position down into P14. He's not had the best of time since he's taken control of the car. And Kudowski is spinning on the exit. It's back underway, and he is now in last position. Be careful of the Mercedes on your right hand side, oh sorry, left hand side. So Derek's lost a little bit of time. Ian Thompson's experiencing the sand at Donnington Park. So he's 18th at the moment, so he's gained up 4 positions since the start. Damien Wilkes lost 6 positions, so he's after a very, very early pit stop to repair some damage. He's working his way back through the grid quite well. Craig Hill's done okay in P20th as well as gaining position. Bjorn Dale in P32 has gained 2 positions since the start. So has Dos Ramos' car. Has overtaken Gonzalez, so Gonzalez is in last position at the moment. There has been a change. Tobias Rosenthal, last lap was a 37.1, Senadori's was a 37.6. So I can only assume that there has been some form of contact which has put Senadori ahead of Tobias Rosenthal. So Tobias now in P2, Senadori in P1 in the GT3s and the GT4s. So that is a change. As we see Nopek still giving Veltman all that pressure, as Veltman now approaches a GT4 car of Alex Zachtel to lap him once again round the inside. That's going to put Zachtel right in the middle, and a little bit of breathing space for Nico Veltman. Veltman's now approaching the McLaren in front. As you can see, Nopek has already managed to make the move into the braking zone for the right-hander. It's always a dangerous one, but he has made the move successfully, and Nopek slides in there too, so no rest for the wicked for Nico Veltman. I see another car just in front. You've got Thomas Nopek's BMW looming large in the rear view mirror of the Audi. So Dos Ramos is currently in P32. He's gained 4 positions since the start, and Gonzalez is currently in P35. So he's lost 4 positions since the start, but his pace, well, he's 65 seconds behind Chris Carr. Currently is in P34 at the minute, so unfortunately not faring too well. So 15 minutes left. 44 laps completed. The tail of the tape so far is Nico Veltman's team started P1, currently in P1, with Thomas Nopek breathing down his neck less than a second behind. Ike Zerman has got a yellow flag. What has happened to Ike? He is off the track at the final corner. Is that as Erdmann? That's Erdmann behind. Yes, that's Erdmann behind. So he still managed to retain P3, but look at the front of that car. That's going to start to hurt Zerman pretty quickly. So our current P3 man has damage. Oh, Nopek's less than a second, less than a tenth behind, pushing him through the S's. Is this going to be the move into the hairpin? Side by side, Nico Veltman has the inside line, takes the inside line. He's going to try and push Nopek into the GT4 car on the side. His former adversary, Vincenzo Senatore, but Veltman takes the inside line, breaks a little bit later into the final hairpin. A little bit of contact. Nopek's going to have the inside line. Out of the corner, Thomas Nopek takes the lead. Thomas Nopek, our Super Sprint 2-time champion. Oh no, Nico Veltman has the inside line for turn 1. Is the move going to make? Is the move going to stick? Nopek moves up to the track and is off the track. Veltman leads. Oh, to in and fro in, left and right. But Nico Veltman lives to fight. That was cheesy. Wow, I got a funny feeling this is not over. Oh, Nopek, no. That sent Chris Carr off. That's not ideal. Either for Chris Carr or Thomas Nopek. So fastest lap of the race so far has also been done by Dominic Ilgner in that car. Thomas Nopek, I know. Sadly, my PC is a bit crap and I don't have enough power to be able to go and do an instant replay of that, because you'll just be sat looking at the same screen. But I got a funny feeling that may have been Mr. Nopek's fault. But Claessens and Wilson are going for it to get that top 10 position. Zerman has had to come in for another stop. I don't think he appreciated the damage, and that's going to hurt him in terms of positions. With 11 minutes left, currently P4. Erdmann must be thinking, I cannot believe my luck. But that potentially is going to... Yeah, so Chris Schneider's been promoted. I'm not sure... And Patrick Den. Where's Lewis? Lewis is just going for the final corner now, so Zerman drops behind him. Sergio Azario currently in P9. Riley O'Sullivan's got a yellow flag. He's experiencing some of the off-track. We've got lots of cars coming through there now. So Ike Zerman is just about up and running. Where's Bjorn Claessens? Bjorn Claessens, John Wilson goes through. Alan Brown has gone through as well. Ryan O'Sullivan, I don't think is close enough. Nope, he is not. So Ike Zerman drops from P3 to P12 with that damage and that extra pit stop. So that goes to show how tight the field is, to be honest. It hasn't disappeared off. Okay, so Erdmann is 30 seconds behind. So Chris Schneider... So Daniel Chris Schneider doesn't look too happy with Hayne. He needs to focus on driving on the track rather than flashing his lights at this moment, because Patrick Den is right behind. Sergio Azario is in a very credible P8, Klassen's in 9, Wilson in 10. Nopek and Nico Veltman are still going hammer and tong at it. Wilson's got a yellow flag in P17. I'm going to have to keep an eye on the timing boards, but it looks as though Patrick Den and Chris Schneider are still fighting it out, but Nopek goes into the S's as they approach Melbourne. 10 minutes left of sweating for Nico Veltman. Last time around, Nopek was 0.3 of a second quicker than Nico Veltman into the braking zone for the final hairpin. Schneider now 0.2 of a second behind Philip Hain, and that's going to be the inside line for this corner. And Chris Schneider has managed to gain yet another position. He's moved up to P4. This is a very, very, very solid drive from him. Philip Hain has dropped now to P5. He's going to be under pressure from Patrick Den. Let's go back to our leaders as Alan Brown's being overtaken by the looks of things. Yes, he is, by Thomas Nopek. So it's lap 48 for our lead two drivers. Lots and lots and lots of traffic to play with. GT4 nicely gets out of the way. There's another GT4 McLaren 570. Shouldn't have the power, but Thomas Nopek's going to try and push Nico through the corner. Unfortunately, avoids contact. Zerman has a yellow flag. You can see him just in front, so that's a very quick GT3 car. Then you've got a damaged GT3 car going into the S's. As they head towards Melbourne, Nopek and Nopek's going to try and go for the undercut. A little bit of contact with the rear end of the Audi. Lots of contact between the Mercedes and the Aston Martin behind. Interesting. As they go into the final corner, Nopek closes in even more. I'm not sure. Was that? I think, yeah, it was Claessens and Alan Brown who made contact with each other into turn 1. Nico Veltman still defending for his life over Thomas Nopek. He owns the fastest lap as well. Senadore still leads the GT4 class by 3 seconds over Tobias Rosenthal. Marco Keddy in P3, Samuel 4. Then you got Zach Del Romano, Thomas Bjorn Dale, Abel Del Ramos, Chris Carr and Javier Gonzalez. But the battle which we're focusing on at the moment is the fight for P1 between Nico Veltman and Thomas Nopek, and this will go the distance. Claessens has gone into the pits from P17. So that contact and damage with Alan has cost him greatly as they go past another Alpine GT4 into the braking zone sensibly, and just Nico Veltman managed to avoid the contact. But then Thomas Nopek, great respect for not flying through the back of Nico Veltman, but this time he does push him in the bum once again through the apex of the corner. Thomas Nopek is desperately trying to get past. Six minutes left round this track, so about 4 laps remaining, he says, rather unconfident. So Claessens is P20th now. He's dropped down the field quite massively. Derek's 8.5 seconds behind Gedman for the fight for P22nd, and the fighter Braveheart between the two drivers. But this is a battle for the ages. I thought the M6 was dead these days, but certainly Thomas Nopek, well, I've heard it's okay, it's just difficult to drive. So Nico Veltman under pressure, and has been for the last 20-25 minutes. Yeah, I'm glad I'm sat here, not on the track, because this car is an absolute pain. This track is an absolute pain for drive-throughs, track limits, punches, you name it. GT4s, GT3s, commentator's curse. This time, Nopek doesn't push Nico through the corner, and it is a set second in front. Just looking through the grid, is there anything else to focus on at the moment? Not really. No, Chris Schneider's had a fantastic drive. So far, my driver of the day. Yeah, okay. So WP 98, yes, a 666 spun Karma. I think there was contact with Alan Brown 738 through Melbourne. Nopek runs very, very wide through that corner there. Seems as though Nico has a little bit of a gap at the moment. Christopher Gedman showing his yellow flag on my screen. He's approaching. I think that was going past Cristian Romano, I think. And Cristian Romano wants to have a fight with Alex Zachtel. And there is no fight. He breaks very, very late into Melbourne and gets past in the Alpine over the mighty Ginetta. And Cristian Romano moves up to P29. Craig Hill and Bjorn Claessens, I think, are fighting. Oh. So Thomas has dropped back a little bit. He's recharging his batteries, recharging his mental capacity, ready for round 36 of his fight with the Audi. Dan Sixups has a yellow flag in P13. Drivers seem to be getting a bit tired now as they approach GT4s again into Melbourne hairpin. Manages to make the move successfully. Tighter line into the braking zone. Zach's in the pits. Zach's in the pits. Zach in the pits. Zach in the pits. Nope. Oh, he might have been in the pits. Yeah, it says he has done 2 stops. So maybe that was an underfuel. Christopher Gedman again experiencing different areas of Donnington Park. Derek Bruh is now 4.2 seconds, 4 seconds behind. Alan Brown and Dan Sixups have swapped position. Alan Brown, in fact, has had to do another pit stop. Potentially, yes. So we've got 2 drive-throughs. So I can't see who they are for. Oh, I can. No, I can't see who they're for. It says L4833, 331 and 738. So Brizzle and Zachtel have indeed had drive-throughs. Do you know what? That's not a bad shape. P12. Dan Sixups has moved up 7 positions. So he's had a very good race. It's 19.8 seconds now behind Ryan O'Sullivan. Ryan O'Sullivan's had a good race. Nopek's pitted. Nopek's gone in the pits. Is this a drive-through? I think it is, you know. Oh, track limits. So he's back underway. He has a comfortable gap to Sebastian behind in P3, but the Nico Veltman remained patient. Yeah, kept going. All he needs to do is keep it on the black stuff now, and not make contact with Ian Thompson and the Ferrari behind. That would be ideal. You've got Ike Zerman as well, so Nico Veltman left and right over the GT4 car. This time decides to go left-hand side into the braking zone. Ian Thompson needs to avoid that GT4 car as well. Ike Zerman behind. So Philip Hein has now dropped to P6. Still gain of 2 positions overall. Patrick Den has moved up to P5. So yes, definitely was a drive-through. Car number 48 on lap 54 had a drive-through, or cleared their drive-through. So that might be the reason why he had to back off a little bit to Nico Veltman. So leader is now on the final lap. Let's have a quick check of our GT4 cars. So they're 30 seconds into their lap. There is a 5-second gap between Senadore and Tobias Rosenthal. As you can see, Rosenthal going through the corner now. Marco Keddy in P27 has had a decent race as well, by all means. Javier Gonzalez has a yellow flag. I assume that's because he is very, very close to GT3 cars. Well, in the middle of two GT3 cars. The noise that these cars make live on track here at Donnington is also fantastic. But Dominic Ilgner, Nico Veltman have performed absolutely admirably. The pressure, the pace that Dominic showed at the beginning of the race, pulling away from Nopek, and then the pressure that Nico Veltman was under for 35 minutes was absolutely immense. However, Nico Veltman managed to hold off the challenge. Thomas Nopek then unfortunately got a drive-through. But that has been one hell of a race from Nico Veltman. Qualified P1 and will come across to win round 1 of Season 2 of the British GT here at Donnington Park. Well done, Nico Veltman. Second position will be Thomas Nopek in the BMW M6. An achievement finishing in itself. Let's have a look where our lead GT4 car is. They're not round the circuit yet, so Thomas Nopek comes across to claim P2. Sebastian Erdmann a lot closer than he thought he was going to be to the to the two lead drivers. Will get the third podium position and come across in P3. Well done, Sebastian, on your FRL debut. Excellent result. Now for the GT3 cars. So we got Vincenzo Senatore approaching the S's. Qualified in P2. Has completed 50 laps. This was his 51st lap. Was behind at the start to Niels. Was out-qualified by 0.6 of a second. But managed to keep in touch over with Tobias and then switched positions. And Vincenzo Senatore has performed very well in the previous Super Sprint season, but will come across to win round 1 of the GT4s here at Donnington Park. That is a fantastic result by he on Tobias Rosenthal in P2. And Marco Keddy coming through the final corner now will claim P3 in the GT4s. Wow, what a race. There were some fantastic moves by drivers throughout the grid. Majority of the race is extremely clean racing. But our winner for round 1 is Nico Veltman with a fantastic P1. Himself and Dominic Ilgner battled away in the Audi with Thomas Nopek in the GT4, the BMW M6. Sebastian Erdmann claims P3 in the GT3 class. Might see himself as a bit fortunate with Ike Zerman's incident in the final corner, but nevertheless, a P3 is a P3. Our GT4s, Vincenzo Senatore claims our P1, Tobias Rosenthal claims P2, and then Marco Keddy claims P3. Our final finish positions are Javier Gonzalez, Chris Carr, Abel Del Ramos, Bjorn Dale in 30 seconds, Malosby in P31, Alex Zachdell in P30, Christian Romano, catch him on Thursday for the rookie and Friday for PSG in P29, Samuel in P28, Marco Keddy, as we mentioned, Tobias and Vincenzo Senatore. Our GT3 finishers are Stefan von Kodowski in P24, Derek Brown 23rd, behind Christopher Gedman in 22nd, Luca Bazzari in P21, Bjorn Klassen's 20th, Craig Hill in 19th, Ian Chica Thompson in 18th, Damien Wilk in 17th, Adam Clark in 16th, Jumper Digital in 15th, with just 0.4 of a second behind Stephen Wilson in 14th, Alan Brown in 13th, Dan Sixups in 12th, Ryan O'Sullivan in 11th. Ike Zerman may feel a bit disappointed with P10 after battling for the podium for a large
period of the race. Then we got John Wilson in P9, Sergio Azario in 8th, Luis Privas in P7, Philip de Hein in P6, Patrick Den in 5, Daniel Schneider in 4th position, with Sebastian Erdmann and Thomas Novak, and our winner is once again Nico Veltman. Next week we have the joys and tribulations of Brands Hatch, so please make sure you tune in. Sadly, I'm not going to be here. Then we've got Snetterton in 2 weeks' time, then Silverstone, and then the way that race shaped up, I think it's going to be a fantastic championship, full of trials and tribulations along the way. It's been a wonderful Tuesday night. I am absolutely shattered. I wish you all good night and catch you again soon.